Good morning, good afternoon, Power Warriors. It is Tuesday, December 9th. We are winding down a pretty uneventful year so far. Not too much has happened in the solar industry, our company. It's pretty much business as normal. I say that tongue in cheek. It's been an interesting year on a lot of fronts, and excited to see all of you jumping in from around the country. We've got, just before we started recording, we've got a ton of West Coast, East Coast, and Middle America in here as well. It's a brisk 50 degrees here in Kansas City, and excited to see all of you on here. We've got a good event today with a friend of many of yours. Jay from LightReach is here to talk about the LightReach product. But before we do that, would love to uh, hear some success stories from you. Maybe you closed a deal, got a referral, signed up a setter, signed up a sales pro, signed up an ambassador, got a referral, had a commission come in. Um, what's going on in your neck of the woods with your power business?
I'll chime in from Maryland, Tom.
Yeah,
So I've been recruiting pretty heavily now through the month of December. We're going to continue to run ads on LinkedIn through next Monday. Actually, the 15th is my cutoff date. But I brought on six new consultants, six new setters in the past week or so.
congratulations.
Continue to got two more conversations this afternoon. Thank you. So bringing a bunch of folks on. And then the real thing that I've been spending my time in is converting the 25 or 30 orders that I have, 12 of which are not going to make it. And so I've had conversations with all the homeowners, very similar to what we had yesterday, and about seven of them I have converted over to PPAs. So I still have about five or six to go yet. Man, it's a little painful, right? I mean, you just kind of
It
working
is.
it, doing the best you can, and having conversations with the homeowners and so just trying to build. So it's wonderful, but it's a bit uncomfortable. So other than that, man, I appreciate this group and welcome, Jay.
Thank you, Craig. Yeah, it was having guests on last night for the Texas event. I had on four guests that showed up. One of them was having connection issues with his internet, so he wants the recording too, Craig. Everybody's asking about the recording from last night, but yeah, Texas is back. That's exciting to have such a, not just a good value proposition, but a value proposition that's better than it has been in the four. Jonathan Budd was sharing, Texas has, made a lot of millionaires in the solar industry in our company. And, you know, we've got it better than ever there right now. So exciting stuff. Anybody else? We've got some other people on here. Any success stories that you want to share? Cynthia, you're not driving this week.
I think I shared this last week, but I did book about six real estate presentations for 2026
Oh,
or yeah,
wow.
2026. So those are already on the books. I'm just leaning into that. That's where a lot of my self-gen has been coming. So that's my win.
That's cool. Man, not waiting until January to get them booked. I love it.
No.
I love it. What how many different offices is that? I'm just curious. When you say you've got six of them booked.
Those are three different offices. One of them in particular plans out quarterly. And actually, this is probably a good cue if you are looking to get scheduled in. A lot of these offices plan quarterly. So they're already planning their trainings for January, February, March, and some of them plan into the half year. So it's nice to get in ahead of time. But yeah.
Yeah. Are all those in person?
All of those are in person, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we get better attendance in person. I know for a while we were trying to do Zoom, but if there's ever a Zoom, I'll let you guys know. I'm trying to get some of those recorded as well.
Cool. Love it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bill Conley.
Yeah, hi Tom. I just want to piggyback off of Cynthia there and say last Wednesday I went with Scotty Rupert to Walnut Creek to a women in real estate networking event. There were about 40 people there or so, all of whom are either real estate agents or associated with real estate. And it was pretty casual, but made some good contacts, people that are interested. It's just amazing that there's a lot of folks that are not. We are in our solar bubble, so it seems like everybody knows or hears about real estate, and so I mean about solar. Anyway, so we made a lot of good contacts, and we're going to follow up with that and maybe engaged with this group. And then I also wanted to welcome Tom Dar from Coral Gables, Florida, who's a new rep with Powur, and I think I got 5 or 6 too, like Craig recently. So welcome, Tom.
How's it going, guys?
Welcome, Tom. Love it. Let me just making sure there my internet cut out for just a second. Let me share my screen here, and we can jump into Janine. If you're listening, I know you love Mel. I wanted to share another clip from her. She was down in Australia and did this interview that I thought was pretty good stuff here. I'm just curious, while I'm sharing this, if any of you have read Mel's book about let them theory. I'm just curious. You can put it in the chat. I'm wondering how many of you have read it. So listen to this clip and think about end of year. Think about motivation. Think about what has moved the needle for you in your business in the past.
Motivation is complete garbage. Complete and utter rubbish, as you would say, because it is never there when you need it. I mean, if motivation were easy, we'd all have $1 million and six-pack abs. We'd all be living our dream life. The secret to life, honest to goodness, is making yourself do the things you don't feel like doing. And it was during this time that I developed this little motivation hack that I call the 5-second rule. So in the States, I don't know if you have it here, but if you drop food on the floor and pick it up in 5 seconds,
Yes.
Safe to eat.
It's fine.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, if you have an idea and you think about it for longer than 5 seconds, your mind contaminates your desire to do it.
Because you start talking yourself out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's all these fancy words for this that psychologists have, but I just like to speak about it in a way that anybody can understand.
Sure.
So the hack that I had was I just was inspired by this rocket launch, and I started counting backwards every morning. I'd be lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all my problems, rotting away like a human pot roast. And then I would just start counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I would get out of bed. And I called this technique the 5-second rule. You got to move in 5 seconds or you will literally talk yourself out of it, as you said. And I use this little countdown thing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to push myself every day through the anxiety, the depression, the excuses. Because the truth is, one of the beautiful things about life today is you could go to ChatGPT, if that's what I always say it wrong because of dyslexia. You could put in, I want to know how to do X, Y, Z. Tell me what to do 15 minutes a day for 30 days. It'll spit out the best plan. It'll work. The problem will be you. Because then you're going to be like, oh, is that going to work for me? And it's always you against you. And so that's how things began 16 years ago. I just wanted to get out of bed. I just wanted to get the kids on the bus. I just wanted to start paying my bills. I just wanted to stop screaming at my husband. And I think we all know what we need to do, but we're waiting to feel ready to do it. And that's the trap.
So think about what you know that you need to do. Maybe ChatGPT told you. Maybe it's just something it's been on your list for a while. It's been kind of brewing, causing anxiety because you haven't got to it yet. Maybe, as we wind down the year, maybe it's about your health. Maybe it's about a relationship. Maybe it's about your business. Maybe it's, a customer that you need to reach out to help transition to TPO. Maybe it's, reaching out to some leads. Whatever that is, think about not just what Mel said with the countdown with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, but think about your why. why you are working in the solar industry, why you're working with Powur, and what you want this next year to look like for you. Because the secret to your business success is making yourself do the things that you don't feel like doing. That's true for me. It's true for all of us. There is an amazing future that you can be grateful for right now as you are moving into it. And I'll just mention this before I close off this thought. If you feel like you are sometimes living in that movie Groundhog Day, where you just keep repeating the same things over and over. I went to an event at the start of November. It's why I flew back from Europe, actually. I went to an event where I did a lot of work on my subconscious brain with a small group of people and a world-renowned expert on the subconscious. And I've read Mel Robbins' Let Them theory. I like this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. But there was still some things that were kind of, I felt like limitations for me and keeping me from doing some of the things that I wanted to be doing. If you feel like you're kind of living through Groundhog Day, and you want to kind of do a little bit of work to maybe try and escape that rut that you're in, reach out to me. My email, if you don't have it already or you're not in one of our groups, my email is tom.cotter@powur.solar. If you reach out to me, I'll share something that I'm doing every week that may be able to be a resource for you. So let's move on here. Upcoming events. So I wanted to put the two biggest markets for us, the market development meetings for those on the calendar so that you're aware. So this coming Monday, we've got California Market Development that Chris and Owen do a great job leading. That's at 10 a.m. Pacific. The next hour after that, it flows into Texas Market Development meeting. Melissa, Bobby, Luis are on there and others. That may be something that you want to start getting involved with after the event that was last night. Once you realize what's really going on in Texas, including how VPP is going to be the largest utility in the United States, and a lot of the great programs that are going on there. So I wanted to make sure that those were on your radar. The Monday forum for sellers, that's Monday also. And then Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific, LightReach product training. So if you want some kind of hand-holding from Jay, who's going to be speaking today, very grateful that he's here. That would be a great follow-up to today's training if you want to be a part of that. And then 1 week from today, our next team training is end-of-year planning, one of the ones that I love talking about. So, all right, let me stop sharing my screen, and I want to introduce Jay from LightReach. Many of you may feel like, wait, I think I saw him. Where do I know Jay from? Well, he's back better than ever, and super grateful that he is our main point of contact for LightReach. I shared this a couple weeks ago. We had I think it was in a different meeting. I had an LADWP project, no battery, put that in LightReach, compared it between GoodLeap and LightReach just to see what the comparison was. I knew LightReach was going to be better, but it was significantly better. And it was actually saving the homeowner $100 a month, on a 2.99 compared to what they were paying to LADWP. So love to see that kind of savings, when we can show that to people. So Jay, excited you're here.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Tom, thanks so much for having me. And what's up, guys? Powur hitters. This is honestly, I was really excited to be able to work with you guys again. For context, for those who I haven't met in the past, let me actually share my screen and we'll get into it. But I have been working with Powur for for a couple of years now, with a previous account that previous company that I worked with, and just the people that I've met along the way. Really, at this point, I are my friends. I consider friends, and in the space, and I want to see you guys succeed, and I'm happy to be a part of that, in any capacity that I can be. But again, for those who don't know me, my name is Jay Balatbat. I am the senior relationship manager here at LightReach. A little bit of background. I started my solar career about a decade ago. I was I guess an ambassador is what they would call it at Sunrun. So I was in Costco's and Home Depot's, and trying to stop you from leaving before getting your information to go solar. I then was a sales rep on the national inside sales team. So I was working from home but selling projects in Florida and Connecticut and Illinois and California, obviously, and all over the United States. Left there, went to Sonova, and was in the finance space for. I was with Sonova for about 5 years, and we all know how that story ends. And for might not know this, but after that ended, I've got a family, I've got kids, I've got to provide. Luckily, I had great relationships still at Sunrun, so I went back to selling national inside sales. And for a few months between there and now at LightReach, I was selling again in various markets across the United States. And I'm actually really thankful for that opportunity because it gave me a temperature check of the market right now. Solar in Q3 and Q4 2025 was different than solar, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And so, I do have, I guess, dinner table experience now, more recent, and I'm so thankful for that because now that I'm back in the finance space, I kind of have just this really well-rounded picture of how the market is operating right now, from the finance perspective all the way down to, of course, from a sales rep. So what you guys are seeing and what you guys are coming across in terms of objections in the market. So, Tom asked me to go through kind of some of the basics. I know that there might be some people on the call who are really experienced, more experienced than I am, and there might be others on the call that are just getting into solar. And so I'll kind of cover a little bit of everything. As Tom mentioned, we're going to have more of a product-specific training here coming up in about a week or so. And of course, I'm always available. I'll show you some tips and tricks within our portal and resources that are available to you should I not be, readily available. So we'll get started here, and we'll talk about kind of the basics of TPO. And you guys, I hate to have this death by slides, right? So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand, chime in. I find that that's the best way to kind of, retain the information. But essentially, what is TPO? It's a type of financing. It's a financing vehicle that allows homeowners to go solar without having any upfront costs. They are able to have access to alternative energy without pulling money out of their pocket. TPO literally stands for third party owned. And so you'll hear that TPO phrase thrown out everywhere in the solar industry. It means third party owned and maintained by the financier, the company that offers the TPO, and that's installed on the customer's property. In exchange, the homeowner either pays for the electricity generated from the system, or they're paying for the use of the equipment. And so I'll talk about those two nuances here. There's two types of TPOs. There's a lease and there's a PPA. Inherently, they are the same. One, in a lease, the customer is agreeing to pay for the use of the solar system, where a PPA, they're paying for the power that's being generated from that system. And really, it's the market that dictates what you're going to use. For example, in Florida, they don't allow companies like LightReach to sell power, act like a utility. And so instead of saying a PPA in Florida, we call it a lease. So they're not paying for the power, they're paying for the use of the system. So again, to simplify it, although contractually they are different, the verbiage might be a little different. The homeowner's process, the sales process, the experience, the outcomes, the benefits, they all operate the exact same. The product type, again, depends on the location, more specifically, the utility, right? It can be, especially in California, there are utilities that don't like PPAs and they only want leases. There are utilities that don't offer either. You have to do a cash or a loan product. So it really depends on where you are, what market you're selling. But very high level, two types of TPOs here. All right. So what are the differences? Now, excuse me. So what are the explicit details of how this breaks out for the homeowner? So the relationship with utility. Without solar, of course, whether it's a TPO product or a loan product, doesn't matter. Without solar, they are exposed to unpredictable rate increases. The TPO product allows, solar in general, allows the customer to lock in a set rate for power over a 25-year period. Residential loan versus TPO. So loans, obviously, well, we know the 25D tax credit goes away at the end of the year. So I think that although that tax credit does go away, loans and cash will still pencil out. I think there's still going to be a market for it, although definitely much smaller than what we're seeing. But in its basic form, loans involve interest rates, dealer fees. There's tax credit complexities where TPO does not. The TPO provider assumes the tax credit, and we transfer those savings through the monthly payments to the homeowners. There are annual escalators that you have the option to sell. So everything from a 0 escalator all the way up to a 3.5 here in California. Okay. Our third-party ownership. So that means that Palmetto, we own the system. Again, we monetize the applicable incentives. The homeowner doesn't have to worry about tax credit filings. They don't have to worry about maintenance. They don't have to worry about any of that. Now, one thing that is different between the various lenders in the space, although it says we monetize the applicable incentive, one thing that we don't monetize is any incentive that pertains to storage. So in Illinois, for example, there is a battery incentive where you can get up to $4,000 for Powerwall 3. Other lenders in the space will take that incentive and manipulate the battery pricing so that it shows to the customer that they're only paying maybe $30 for their Powerwall 3, whereas here we give that incentive to the customer. So if they have 2 Powerwall 3s and you pair that with Tesla's current promotion of $1,000 per Powerwall, that's $10,000 that is going directly to the customer's pocket. They're able to monetize that out of the gate and have initial year one savings. It's a win-win-win, and we're not here to take any of that money. That goes straight to the homeowner. We have protective requirements, which means we have stipulations all up and down our process to make sure that what's installed and what's being activated and what's being sold is all up to par. And we do have a production guarantee as well. So for the 25 years, we have a production guarantee of up to 90%. And we'll get a little bit more into detail on that as well. I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys see this Mac lit thing at the bottom? Or do you just see? Okay, cool. On my screen, I see it. I just want to make sure you guys know. Okay. So let's compare financing types. And this is very high level, very quick. I'm zooming through this because, again, I think it might be a little bit more basic info for the audience. But as we're looking at the 3 options, TPO versus loan versus cash, upfront costs, really there is no upfront cost for TPO. Very, very unlikely. If there is, it's very low. Whereas in a loan, of course, there may be, and in cash, of course, you're paying for it all upfront, so it's a high cost. In terms of ownership, we own it. And that means that we're providing the maintenance. And that means that there is a fixed monthly bill associated with the TPO, just like in a loan there might be, but there's APRs and stuff that we have to consider there. Where in a cash, obviously, there is no monthly bill. Tax credits, we get it. Tax credits is going to be a thing of the past here in just a couple weeks, so I might have to update this slide. Credit checks. So there is a soft credit check here with LightReach for any of our TPO products. We'll talk a little bit more about what that credit threshold is here in just a bit. It always and forever is a soft credit check. Does not impact the homeowner's credit profile. Whereas in a loan, of course, there is a hard check. Cash doesn't apply. Production is guaranteed in our TPO product versus no guarantees in the others. And I'm going to pause for questions here in just a second. I know that I think there's some questions coming up in the chat. Actually, that's my next slide. Any questions on what I just covered? Nice.
I've got a question for you. If you want to just go back one slide there, Jay. So
sure.
if you were, selling solar and had been for a while and had a lot of people that you had talked to about purchases with loans and cash, and they didn't move forward at the time, and now you were going to go back to them and try and get them reinterested in finding out the latest information about, a TPO product, how would you get them excited or interested in finding out the latest numbers? Is there anything that you might say to them that could help, get them on another
get
Zoom?
them excited? Yeah. That's a great question, Tom. I think there are probably people on here that are even better sales people than I am. I think that when we revisit the conversation with customers, now that the tax credit is going away, I think we have to do a little bit more digging into the customer's wants and needs to understand, why are they going solar in the first place? I think that if we're going to reposition it to a customer that didn't move forward on the loan or the cash product, we need to really dig into the value add that is that bumper to bumper coverage. Because when we're talking about loans, cash, and TPOs, again, I think loans and cash will still pencil out in some markets and for some people. But what is the biggest difference? It's that bumper to bumper coverage. That's the biggest value add. And so if we go back and we say, hey, look, the tax credit is no longer available for a homeowner, but you're indirectly taking advantage of the tax credit now, plus you're getting a lot of the bumper to bumper coverage that you would not have received before. Let's talk about what does that mean for you here in the long term. I think when we're selling cash and loans, and this is just through conversation with many EPCs, a lot of the reps are failing to mention that if there's a battery, that thing's going to have to be replaced 10 years down the line, at least, right? Or at most, maybe. And so I think, when that's like a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 expense, we need to mention that when we're selling cash and loans, and we're not. So I think if we bring that back up, like, look, this is what the overall expense over 25 years would have been versus what it is in TPO. I think that'll make the conversation a little bit easier. And I'm open to suggestions too, because I'm sure.
I think that I've been trying to change some of my messaging with homeowners, with rather than just talking about solar, but saying things like solar as a service. It's like Netflix, but
exactly.
Where you're subscribing to a lower cost of power, just things like that, just to try to talk about it differently, to be like, oh, well, I hadn't thought about it that way before. Because you want kind of the light bulb to go off with them is, oh, I hadn't thought about it like that before. And then right. If you can combine that with, like a rate hike, news story for their utility, or, something about AI, using all the energy in the world, things like that. Just kind of real quick. So Salil had a question about buyout option, example contract, and if system produces more than what's in the proposal, does the customer get charged more?
And then Tom, I think that the first two questions can be answered later, but I believe the number 3 is more relevant to slides presented until now. And
sure.
And the question I was like, maybe it is not clear, the question I asked, but let's say like where the system I quoted to the customer was for producing 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, and the price is like $130. I'm completely making this up, but they are very relevant, like very similar, very typical rates. And then let's say after the site survey and the formal design, the production actually comes out 10% higher. So it's like 11,000. Does that change the price which the customer will pay?
Yeah. So, Salil, that's a great question. And I did see your comment up top. I will get you a copy of these slides. I know that you've asked before. I apologize. I've just ever since I started at LightReach, I've been just traveling a lot more than I ever did. So I will get that to you. I'll actually have Tom maybe be able to push that out to the entire class here. But to answer your question, so there's two different points in time, right? So the point in time that you had mentioned is prior to install. You sold the project. It's 10,000 kilowatt hours. It's $100 a month. You do the site survey. You realize it's 10% more than what the production was at point of sale. So our change order policy is minus 5% or plus 10%. And what that means is if production increases by more than 10%, then that will change the economics so much so that you will need to get a customer to sign a new contract. If, let's say, we go the opposite direction, where it's going to produce less than what you thought it was by up to, let's say, 5%. If it's 5 or below, then you're not going to need to get a new contract signed. But if it's greater than 5%, then you will, again, the economics change so much that you will need to have a new contract signed. So that's from point of sale to site survey. These changes are happening. Again, if it's greater than 10%, you'll need a new contract. Greater than -5, you'll need a new contract. Now, let's say it's point of sale, site survey, everything happens as it should, as predicted, but then the system is turned on and 3 months later it's producing more than what you thought it was going to produce. That payment does not adjust, right? If you said it was $100 and for 10,000 kilowatt hours, and at the end of that year they produced 15,000 kilowatt hours, they will only have ever paid that $100, right? So two different points of time in the project life cycle. If it happens before install and it's outside of those tolerances, then yes, you will need a new contract. The customer will need to sign off on that. But if it's after install and they just happen to produce more, then they're not going to ever get, they just get more power, right? It's just free power essentially.
Okay. No, this is very helpful. That's extremely helpful. So I can wait for the other two questions to be asked later. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Matthew,
and we will get to the buyout option as well.
Was this a question, Matthew, about this slide or what's been covered?
Yeah, just a couple kind of minor questions about credit.
Sure.
I'm assuming, and Jay, it's good to see you again, and welcome back to
Likewise,
the finance
brother.
side.
Thank you, man.
I assume that it's a 650 credit requirement.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit more about credit, but you brought it up. It's actually a 660 credit score that is required. And just a little bit of background on that, guys. We collect payments. Our customers are paying their bills at a 99% clip. Every one of our customers are paying. But it wasn't always the case. When we had our threshold at 650, we had a very small clip, I would say about 5%, maybe it was under 10% of customers that weren't paying their bill. And we dug and we found that those were typically customers between a 650 and 660 credit score. When we upped the threshold, lo and behold, 99% of our customers are paying their bills. So it is a 660. I know it's a little bit higher, but a happy customer is a paying customer. A happy customer is a referring customer. So that's just kind of where our threshold is.
And a couple of related questions. Is a credit approval required for transfer sale of home?
Yes. So we do run a soft credit check on the new homeowner as well, and I can cover that here in a bit. But to answer your question, we do a soft credit on the new homeowner. The threshold is the same. If for whatever reason they don't pass, and I think that is less likely. I mean, typically if you're buying a home, you have a credit score that would satisfy that. But if not, they're able to pay a deposit, say refundable deposit, to have it transferred over to the new homeowner. Once that homeowner's credit does satisfy our threshold, then they'll get that deposit back, essentially.
Interesting. All right. And I assume it becomes a hard pull at some point at install?
Never, ever. Okay. Yeah. You know, in my experience with other finance companies, it typically only becomes a hard check in a loan, but we don't offer loans, and so not applicable here.
Gotcha. Thanks, Jay.
Of course, of course. And Mohammed, before I move on, question in the chat: is the 90% production guarantee based on a 3-year rolling period? Yes, you are correct. So we look every 3 years, and thank you for dropping that in the chat, the knowledge base. All of these are great questions, and I'm going to show you guys an example of how you can access the answers to these questions without having to reach out to me or text me. I know I'm not the best to text back in a timely manner sometimes, so I'll show you some resources on how you can get that. All right, so how do we sell TPO? So real quick, in the numbers, 67% of Americans think that U.S. should prioritize, alternate energy sources. So majority of Americans think, yeah, we got to look at other things. Over half of Americans are overwhelmed with their current utility bills. I mean, we're all in solar, we get it. There's a lot of people paying a lot for their utilities. 28% of Americans reported seriously considering solar panels. I think that number is actually getting higher as time progresses, right? So my point, there is still a lot of solar to be installed. You guys are in an inflection point, I think, where there's going to be naturally this huge shift to TPO now that the tax credit has gone away, and you guys are perfectly positioned at Powur to take advantage of that. So this is just an infograph on the trending increase in nominal increase in residential electricity prices. Being in California, this is a joke. I mean, 20 cents is, I wish, right? Our SCE is like 70, almost 80 cents here during peak hours. Cynthia, I know you could probably confirm that. So our electricity prices in California are definitely much higher than this, but as you can see, it is only increasing. If history tells us anything, it's only going to continue in that one direction. And this is just kind of percentage increases, 10% increase in 2022, 4% increase in 25. So I think on average, if we're taking this information, every year utility bills across the United States are increasing by about 5% on average. So what is the target? Who is the target customer for TPO? So it's ideal for the customers who may not have immediate access to capital or a desire for an upfront investment. Like, hey, if I'm going to spend $30,000 on something, I'm going to buy a really nice car. Or they might not have the tax liability. Again, that's not even really going to apply here in a couple of weeks. But it's for the customer that wants immediate and long-term savings. I want to say, I think immediate and long-term savings. They want predictable, stable, transparent payments. When I was before I had solar, I just moved, got a new house. It came with solar, but at my old house, before I got solar there, my summer bill was $1,000 a month. I had a Tesla. I got 3 kids. I did $1,000 a month. But then wintertime, my bill was like $200 a month. So it's just this fluctuating thing. It's impossible to balance. So predictable, stable payments, performance guarantees, bumper to bumper coverage. To our conversation earlier, Tom, that is something that you just don't get in loans and in cash. And I get the fixation on ownership, but we need to make very clear the responsibility that falls on the homeowner should they go with that product versus a TPO. Environmentally conscious, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to kill us by slides. I don't want to read this point by point. You guys get it. Monitoring and support, maintenance, production guarantees. These are all things that give assurance to the homeowner that what's being installed is going to work and work for the long term. So this is a standard pricing matrix of ours, and some of you might have seen a pricing matrix. You might know how to read this. Some of you might not have, and so I'll kind of really briefly explain how you can figure out why you're making what you are, depending on production, depending on what you're charging the homeowner in a kilowatt hour rate. So on our left here, let me actually see if I can. I'm going to try something fun. I can't see myself, but
we can see you on the slide.
Am I on it now?
You're on it.
Okay. So where I wish I could see, but here,
you're in
kilowatt hour
left.
rate.
Yeah,
I'm in the bottom left.
Yep.
So here, kilowatt hour rate. Is this right?
A little bit up. A little bit up.
Okay, kilowatt hour. There should be a thing. Okay, cool. So kilowatt hour rate. This is what we're charging the customer, right? And so in this just very small example, you have either 22 cents or 26 cents. And this varies. It could go from 14 cents, as low as 14 cents, and even lower than that in some markets, all the way up to 39 cents, depending on the market. And I really think that the sweet spot, depending on where you are, I don't know that it's beneficial for you, the sales rep, or for the EPC to sell below 14 cents. Again, depending on your market. But let's say, for example, here you got 22 cents that you're charging the customer. You have your options in the escalator, 0.99, 1.9, 2.9. Again, there is a 0 escalator and there is a 3.5 escalator in California. And the numbers up top is the production factor. This way. And so the higher you go, basically the more production the system is making, or in other words, sun hours. How much sun are the panels receiving at any given moment throughout the year? And as we get to the top of 1450, and of course this goes higher, you can see that the escalator, the higher the escalator, the higher you get paid as well. Now, I'm showing this slide not just to show you, okay, this is how the pricing works, but I wanted to kind of also talk about escalators as a whole. Tom, do you sell with escalators or not?
Usually, yes.
And if you're selling with an escalator, what escalator are you using?
Typically,
kind of depends.
2.99.
Okay, I love that. And look, I also sold with basically a 2.99. But let's talk about the logic of escalators, because I think there's a negative connotation with them. So when we're talking about a 2.99, for example, I think the current rate of inflation is like what, 3 something currently, somewhere in there. So if we take the savings that would be spread over 25 years and we use a 2.99, what we're doing for the homeowner is we're taking all of those savings that were evenly spread and we're front loading the first 10 years or so of the agreement. And we're giving them the most savings, the lowest monthly payment, typically for the first 10 years of that agreement. And the reason why that makes sense is inflation is higher than 2.9. The dollar is worth more now than it will be in 10, 15, 20 years, again, if history tells us anything. And so we want to give, if we're talking to a homeowner that wants to see the most savings up front, they're tired of these $1,000 bills, maybe they're not in their forever home, then that 2.9 escalator is applicable. To give you guys some context, I sold myself a 2.9 escalator, because I knew that I needed the most savings up front in that first 10 years. And I say 10 years because it's usually about 10 years where you hit that break-even point with a 0 escalator. And so that's kind of my logic on escalators. I don't know if you have anything that you wanted to add to that, Tom, but outside of the benefit to the homeowner when shined in that light, you're also getting paid more per kilowatt hour. So just wanted to kind of break that negative connotation.
Yeah, it takes less sales skills to show a lower payment, right?
Sure. Exactly.
The higher your payment compared to what your current utility payment is, you need to be a more skilled salesperson. So, across the industry, most of the people who are selling the most solar, not everybody, but most of the people are using that escalator.
Yeah. I love the comment here about John Wilson, who's, again, someone I consider a friend, calling it a rate cap, which ensures the rate will never exceed that escalator percentage. Bill, good. Thank you for pointing that out. Great verbiage. I agree. Great way to position what an escalator is. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that because, again, I know there's a negative connotation. I don't want you to be scared of throwing an escalator on there thinking you're doing a disservice. I think it's actually quite the opposite. So, okay. So there's some common objections that you'll find when you're selling a TPO product. So let's talk about kind of how to break through those things. So TPO right now, moving into this new landscape of solar, is the only way to capitalize on that ITC, right? Again, Palmetto LightReach is taking that federal tax credit and transferring those savings to the homeowner. excuse me. Also, with Palmetto, we are long-term partners with the customer and with our capital markets, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Why it's different than where I previously was with Nova, and really what sets us apart as a financier. I'm really, really happy to be here. I feel strongly about our position, and I'll talk about that in a sec. But we hold on to these customer relationships for 25 years, and we're going to offer future products to them as well. Standalone batteries. We do have now a standalone battery lease option. So for your NEM2 customers, NEM1 customers, NEM3 customers, new homes that have solar installed without batteries, you have the ability to now go to those homeowners and sell just the battery, 10 or 12-year leases, competitive pricing. The last time I looked at it, a single Powerwall 3 at a 12-year lease agreement, it was like less than $100 for that Powerwall 3, and they get to keep it. Well, and it comes with battery replacement for the 12 years, so likely they'll need to replace it at year 10. We'll replace it. So there's benefits and more products that are coming here. HVAC is another one. We're doing generators here soon. I think water is going to be a part of the product offerings. So we're always looking to innovate and offer new products for you guys to have more tools in your belt. Performance guarantees, option to buy, domestic content and energy communities. That's really going to help solidify our position as a whole, solar as a whole, not just Palmetto LightReach. Using domestic content is going to ensure that there's a future here for the market and a future for jobs for people that live here in the States. We again, warranties, transferability, ease of qualifying for the new homeowner. We do a soft credit check. Our ability to lift the UCC1 filing and transfer that to the new homeowner happens very quickly, more so than at our competitors. We really focused on making that a seamless process. So these are that's a common objection that you might come across. The biggest objection, I think, especially in 2025, that you might come across is, well, what happens if you go out of business? I know firsthand what that looks like. I've heard that question many times. And, although we're not here to promise that we're going to be here forever, that would be an empty promise. We can provide assurances, right? We have nearly a five-star Google rating. We have one of the highest NPS scores. We have nationwide coverage. 100% system fleet production, which means all of our systems are producing as they should. I don't know that anyone else can say that. 99% of our customers are paying their bill, and those customers are paying their bills to us for the next 25 years. Capital market strategy. So this is, again, a little bit different than how any other financier operates. And I don't want to get too much in the weeds with you, but in short, we're not a public company yet. And I think that that's advantageous because, we have the ability or flexibility to raise money outside of public markets. The tax equity that comes from these projects, that's what's sold after the project reaches PTO to our capital markets partners. And it's different. We're not just saying, hey, buy the tax equity from us and then we'll see you later. I think that that's really what kind of got financiers in trouble. Mosaic, Sonova, PosiJet, all of these had really basic one-dimensional relationships with the capital markets. Whereas our relationship with the capital market is a 25-year joint venture, which means that our partners in the capital markets team, they're also not just purchasing the tax equity from us, but they are getting in a joint venture a percentage of the monthly payments that are being paid to us throughout the 25 years. So for a capital market partner who's looking to purchase this tax equity, it's not just a single transaction. They are buying into the platform and owning these relationships with us for the next 25 years. Again, not to get too much in the weeds, but that's totally different. I've never seen that before with any other financier. I feel like I've been talking. I knew it. As soon as I feel like I'm talking too long, I get to questions. So any questions on this?
Yeah, Jeff was wanting to know if LightReach does a 5-year savings like GoodLeap for year one escalator. So I think you get error once LightReach is selected in Vision.
When storage is added.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure. I'm going to say no. I'm not sure what you mean by 5-year savings. If you can elaborate on that, might be a little different. I don't know if we do that.
In Illinois, for example, when you're adding batteries because they don't have the cost per kilowatt California does, sometimes it's very difficult to get like a 0 or a 0.99 escalator. So what Goodleap did last year, I think, was when you add a battery to the project, instead of the year one savings for program eligibility, they do a 5-year need for savings, which makes those 0%, puts them on the table. So I'm curious in other states outside of California, because LightReach, really Illinois and East has better pricing than Goodleap. So that should be where the majority of programs come from. When you're adding batteries, is that basically going to make the highest escalator the only one available? Or are you doing a more, a more, 2, 3, 5-year look back, similar to what Goodleap changed?
Yeah, so I think the answer to that, the reason why we wouldn't do that is because the battery cost is typically separated from the PV cost, and our year one savings applies to that PV cost only versus the whole project, right? So if your PV cost is showing year one savings, and then you add a $100 battery or whatever, we're only looking at the PV cost to provide those savings. And I think that answers your question. But I can confidently say I don't think we do the 5-year savings look back like that.
No, that's awesome. That makes sense. Perfect. Even better, cool. Actually, that way.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay,
and that. Go ahead.
It shows on the vision proposal that the escalator is only on the solar and not the batteries. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so that was a recent change. Before, it actually was everything escalated, but only the solar is escalating versus the solar and battery. So that is a new recent change.
That's a nugget right there.
Yeah.
Now you owe me a shirt or something, dude.
You should have led with that, Jay.
I know, right?
Not gonna lie, the last shirt you gave me, I actually burnt. But I don't want to go too far on that.
Dude, I have so much like really nice stuff that I might as well burn myself. I can't use it anymore, so I'm right there with you, too. But yeah, I that's a great point, and it also ties to what I was going to mention before, Owen. Is it goes back to what I had said earlier, where we're not capturing any of the battery incentives to this example in Illinois. We're giving all of those incentives to the homeowner to capture, and I get there's an argument for both, but like if I was a homeowner and you were to say, hey, here's Powerwall 3 for $30, but not tell me that I had the opportunity to have $10,000 or $5,000 in the background, I would be pissed. I would rather the $5,000 or $10,000 than a $30 payment. So I think that's again, it's kind of tied to the topic here. I think this is a good place to pause. I see a couple questions coming up. Salil, go ahead, brother.
So can you hear me? So I think I have an existing quote with the Tesla Powerwall, and I'm looking in the system on Palmetto platform. It shows up as something different, and it shows up as Tesla 170700/21-Y, but not sure what is it exactly. But my question is about the Powerwall being replaced every 10 years. Is that correct?
So we lean on the manufacturer warranty initially. So the Tesla manufacturer warranty is 10 years. And so if it does not, if the capacity falls below, I think it's 70% is what's called out on their warranty within that 10 years, then we'll rely on the Tesla warranty to get it replaced. If it happens at year 11, and honestly, it probably won't. If you look at kind of just historical data, Powerwall 3s usually will be replaced within that 10 years. But if it happens at year 11 in this example, then Palmetto LightReach will replace that battery. So there's not a every 10 years per se.
Okay.
It's more so when the battery degrades to a point where it must be replaced, and that state of charge charge again is 70%. Thanks, I appreciate you, brother.
And this will be mentioned in the contract, right?
Absolutely.
What about the buyout option? I know, like, I'm kind of waited for that question. And so I had a customer yesterday reject the TPO pricing, even though it was excellent pricing. He's like, no,
Yeah.
he's hell bent on per ownership, and I addressed most of his concerns. He's like, no, I still want, he had a bug in his brain, so he cannot get rid of
Yeah.
that bug. So I'm like,
Sure.
okay, I don't know. Like I said, okay, I can get you 5 years buyout option. Will you
Yep.
be interested? He's like, yeah, I let me know what's the fair market value or whatever the value he has to pay at that time.
Yeah.
And that value has to make sense for the homeowner. Otherwise, you know, we will lose the business. We will not get the deal.
Sure. So, yes, there is a buyout option at year 5. Fair market value has to be assessed at that point. My crystal ball is in the repair shop right now, so unfortunately, I don't have an answer as to what the specific value will be. But in just a bit, I'll show you exactly what we're looking for, what type of what makes up fair market value, and we can go from there. I
Yeah.
know that there will be people that are still fixated on ownership, so we could talk about what happens at the end of the contract as well. But to
Yeah.
be absolutely clear, they absolutely can buy it at year 5, but it's just kind of, you as a sales rep, you are getting yourself into the weeds when it comes to what is the exact figure at year 5, year 6, and
Yeah.
so forth. You want to, I'm not necessarily dance around it, but you want to be able to address their concerns, but also relieve yourself of any culpability in that conversation.
I understand that, but I'm just right now trying to save the deal, and I'm trying to work with where basically help
Sure.
them come out. And this is one of the big objections I have. This is the
Sure.
biggest objection customers have, that hey, you know what, the TPO company is taking the tax credit, and in this case it's 50%. And why would I pay, like the full market value at 5 years? And if it is shown up as barely depreciated, that's not a good deal for me. And they're like, okay, no thanks. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'm not interested.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and a rebuttal that I got all the time too when I was selling you recently a few months ago. So happy to go through that when I get to that point in the deck, and we'll kind of dive in a little bit more.
Sure.
No problem. Jeff, you had a question?
Hey, Jay, yeah, just to elaborate on the storage, I know how you're doing it in Illinois, which is awesome. I've been told you do it in Connecticut as well,
Yep.
which I'm not familiar with. My question is, for other markets that have storage incentives, like say like Excel in Colorado, is this on the 2026 roadmap that if there is a storage incentive, that you're going to treat it the same way moving forward?
Yeah, as of right now, Jeff, we're treating every storage incentive the same, regardless of the market. So, for example, San Diego is coming out with their own battery incentive, very similar to Illinois. I think it's going to be around like $3,000 per Powerwall 3, for example. And so in San Diego, we're working very closely with SDG&E to figure out what that looks like for the homeowner. And in that scenario, we are also giving that to the homeowner. We're not taking advantage of that tax credit, or I'm sorry, of that storage incentive in San Diego. So if it's available, if an incentive is available outside of a tax incentive, Palmetto LightReach typically will not take advantage of that incentive. It's always going to be pushed to the homeowner. And that may work. That may be to our own demise, right? Like when you're dealing with a Sunrun quote and they have it built in, and the pricing looks like way off. Okay, like that's great for Sunrun, but we just feel like it is best to give those incentives to the homeowner versus us taking advantage of it on their behalf. Okay, so we're coming up on 45 minutes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Jay, let me ask you a quick question about that, because I'm in Maryland. There's a boatload of incentives, right? And there is a storage credit in Maryland, so perhaps we can start to utilize that. But there's county credits. There's a grant program that's good for a lease and a PPA. There's all kinds of things that I'd like to know. I mean, if you guys aren't going to consider, I guess, the federal tax credit, can the homeowner still get the property tax credits locally in the counties, or I'm just anyhow getting confused.
Well, so yeah, so with I mean, so the 30% tax credit going away for homeowners, the 25D, that didn't go away for companies like LightReach. So in regards to the federal tax credit, the 25D credit, we're going to get that because we own the system. But if there are local or state incentives outside of that, then typically that's going to the homeowner. And that's kind of a broad stroke. So maybe you and I, Craig, we kind of dive into those specific incentives together. But I've never seen a storage incentive in particular that LightReach takes instead of the homeowner.
Jay, just very quickly about the incentive. There is a DG rebate for the smart inverter. Why is that not passed over to the Illinois customers? Why is the only DG storage passed on?
So that I don't have an exact answer for you, Salil. Send that to me in an email, and I'm happy to look into that particular incentive a little bit deeper. But at this point, I'm not quite sure why or why not. I'd have to look at that.
I'll email it to you. Thank you, Jay.
It's a great question. No problem. I just want to respect the time here, so I'm just going to kind of move forward. So, we have a lot of resources here for you. Our knowledge base paired with Powur's knowledge base. I doubt that there's ever going to be a question that you have that won't be answered in there. But to show you, this is where our chat lives. This is a little P at the bottom. Let me actually show you. So if you're logged into your portal, it'll look like this. This is at palmetto.finance. And you really wouldn't ever live in here because we are integrated into Vision. And so everything in Vision, everything is done in Vision, the design, sending out the contracts, running credit, all of that is done through Vision. But you do have access to your own Palmetto LightReach portal. And so that would be at palmetto.finance. And the bottom P here, will open up kind of our chat feature. And what's awesome is Sunny. And you have the option to chat with kind of our QC team, with our ops spec team. But Sunny is going to be the biggest value add, I think, because all of these questions that you're asking me can be asked to Sunny, our AI tool, and she'll pull it from our knowledge base and all of our internal resources. So, for example, Salil, I know that you had a question about this. What happens at the end of an agreement? So you could ask really anything, even as I'm fairly new to LightReach, a little over a month, 2 months now. And so I'm asking Sunny all the time if I don't have an answer, right? So, for example, here I just asked, what happens at the end of the agreement? There's 4 options. They can purchase the system at fair market value. Again, Salil, we'll talk about what is fair market value here in a bit. They can have us remove the system at no cost. A lot of this should look familiar to other financiers. They can extend the contract at a new rate, or it's an automatic ownership transfer, which means if they don't tell us that they want to purchase it, if they don't want to remove the system, if they don't want to extend the contract, within 90 days, it's just the homeowners. It's just theirs, right? And it's presented to them as is. So again, it might sound familiar. I know for me, as I say it, it sounds familiar. So there are some similarities to other financiers. But in short, the system is just theirs if they want it at the end. Okay. What is fair market value? Another great example. How is fair market value calculated? What is fair market value? Boom. So the appraisal considers several factors: system age and depreciation, payments you've already made, any rebates or incentives that may have been applied to the cost of the system, which would bring that cost down, current market conditions. So although there's not a specific formula, and again, we can't provide the exact price in advance because all of these things will fluctuate according to what point in time they want to purchase the system. But these are the things, the factors that we look at when considering what is fair market value. So Sunny AI, a great tool. I would highly recommend getting comfortable with that. So we look for, again, a 660 in your credit score. We're looking at the highest score between TransUnion or Equifax. We do not do a DTI. We do not need proof of income. There's a 25-year performance guarantee. Again, it's up to 90%. Again, we look every 3 years to true up. If we are less than that 90%, then we will cut the customer a check. Again, I promise you, we do not want to cut a customer a check. So it is up to us to remain accountable to make sure that the system is producing as it should. We talked about this earlier, Salil, to your question. What happens if it increases by greater than 10% or decreases by more than 5%? Again, you won't have to worry about it as long as it's within those tolerances. Otherwise, the economics do change to a point where the customer will need to acknowledge that. Everything is managed for the consumer through their portal. So they have an app, they can log online. It's all managed there. That's where they'll do a couple other things, which I'm going to touch here in just a second. Predictable payments, flexible option to buy it after year 5. Again, 5 key elements to understand. What is the Palmetto LightReach energy plan? Or it is an energy plan, excuse me, whether it's a PPA or a lease. Again, that varies by market. Predictable payments, 3-year true-ups, as I just mentioned. Robust protection, that's bumper to bumper, including battery replacement for all 25 years. And for you, the sales rep, and for the company, easy operations. Milestones are simple, straightforward. We're not asking for 1,000 photos like some of the other people might have in the past that I've worked with. We want to keep it as simple as possible. We want to get you guys paid. So again, the homeowner doesn't own the system. I think we went through all of this pretty much in detail. So I'm going to move forward from that. So there are 3 milestones in the project lifecycle: NTP, which we call M0, installation, that's glass on roof, that's M1, and activation, PTO, M2. In NTP, this is your job. This is where the sales rep have the control. We need all of these boxes checked before you can move to installation or before you get what's called notice to proceed. So we need the system details. You got to put a design together. We need a quote put together. Underwriting means we need the credit to, we need a person to pass credit with a 660 or higher. We need them to confirm their identity. Every homeowner must do this. And we need the title confirmed. And we typically do that automatically in the background. The contract has to be signed. The customer has to be signed up for their account within the Palmetto portal or within their app. ACH is also a requirement, must be set up. Customer agreement confirmation. In the portal or in the app, it's it's like a 5 to 6 questionnaire, where it just covers the basics of the agreement. Did you know you signed up for a 5 kilowatt size system? Do you know there's a 2.9 escalator? Do you know that we can't zero out your utility bill? Those types of things, making sure that we are setting the right expectations for our customers. And then sales rep verification. Every sales rep will need to go through, where is it? Recheck verification. So you will, if you haven't already done this, you likely will need to do this. And it's just so that we can ensure that the people selling our product are stand-up individuals and are not blacklisted from any other financiers for, malicious sales tactics. Okay. So again, we look between TransUnion and Equifax, homeowner portal has to be set up. The first bill is typically due, I would say 30 to 60 days after the system is PTO'd. When you have a customer asking, when's my first payment? I would say within 30 to 60 days. And there's a window like that because just because it's PTO'd doesn't mean it hasn't gone through the necessary motions on our end to be an active system. And so typically 30, 45 days is when they'll see their first payment. Again, everyone must be rechecked. Eligible sites and active utilities. So in our knowledge base and in your knowledge base, you have access to type up, and you could actually ask Sunny this question: what are the active utilities in my state or in this market? It'll show you. You guys have what's called freedom within the framework. So it is up to you guys to decide or ensure that the home you're selling and the product that you're selling is on an approved home site and within an approved utility. You could always ask me, but I would recommend asking Sunny before me because Sunny will likely be able to get back to you much quicker. So you can run credit in the portal or in Vision. Again, you'll likely live in Vision because our integration is pretty slick there. But if you needed to, you can log into your palmetto.finance portal. We just need the last 4 of the social. You can email the credit app, or if you're in home with the customer, you can run the credit through the portal there. Again, the homeowner must be on title. co-applicants must be an immediate family member. They don't necessarily need to live in the property, but your cousin's brother-in-law might not qualify as a co-borrower. That's just something to mention. One thing that is not on any of these slides, which is pretty common. Can you do projects on rental homes? Yes, you can. Your single homeowner is able to install on up to 3 properties, and it doesn't matter if it's in an LLC. It doesn't matter if it's not their primary residence. You are able to do up to 3 properties per homeowner. 2 ways to sign the contract. Again, through Vision, it will automatically do it, but they can sign the contract through their portal via online at home.palmetto.com, via the app, or of course, the DocuSign will be automatically sent to the customer via Vision. And if you're ever directing a customer to their email and telling them what to look for, it's either going to be Powur Purchase Agreement, California State, LightReach Lease Agreement, California State, whatever state that you're in. So pretty straightforward there. And I apologize, I'm zooming through. I want to be sensitive to the time here. I don't know if anyone has a hard stop, so I want to be sure I'm covering as much as I can. This is just an example of what the homeowners will see if they were to do the account setup via online. They will get an email, welcome to LightReach, activate your financing. They'll go through the steps in the email and eventually, and then here, this last clip, that's that checklist that I had mentioned that they'll be signing. The customer must do this in order for NTP to be completed. Okay, this is what it looks like through the app. If they were to do it through the app instead. ID. So yeah, every homeowner has to verify their identity. If this wasn't something that you're used to in the past, I would say get used to it. I think more people are going to be doing this. We need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves and you're protecting yourself from potential issues down the line because the person who signed the contract wasn't the person on title, or whatever the case may be. We just want to make sure that everything is on the up. So this is something they will need to do, again, either through the app or online. Title verification, this happens typically automatically. Again, it doesn't matter if it's in a trust, an LLC, a rental property, as long as those standard things are met. They're on the title, they're on the trust, they're in the LLC, a controlling member of the LLC or trustee, then should be good to go there. And I know I'm going to have questions here, so I'm just going to keep going. All homeowners must complete ACH. So this is, again, a requirement. ACH is necessary for them to, for you to achieve NTP and essentially be able to install. We already talked about recheck verification. So this compliance stipulation, I just want to be clear about something. The welcome call, for example, there is no Palmetto LightReach welcome call. You don't call Palmetto LightReach to do a welcome call. That is something that I would hope that you as a sales rep and the owner of your own business is doing. I would imagine that Powur has some type of call as well. But we will require, not that we don't require it, it's that we don't do it. We allow you to do it. Again, freedom within the framework. And we might not necessarily ever ask for that welcome call. But I would hate for there to be a time where we do ask for that welcome call and you don't have it. And where would we ask for a welcome call? The biggest one, you guys, is going to be if the homeowner is over 70 years old. 10 times out of 10, we are going to ask for a welcome call. We are going to go through the stipulations set by here. We're going to need the customer's basic info. We need the system basics, the contract basics, the utility basics, no incentives or material promises. Hey, I'll give you $10,000 if you sign right now. We want to make sure that there are no, again, malicious sales tactics being when selling a LightReach product. 10 times out of 10, if they're over 70, we're going to want one. Okay. But we're also looking at not just that, but maybe pricing looks way off for that type of system. Or maybe that market, the NPS score in that market is very, very low. So those are things that you want to look out for. Again, we might not necessarily ask for it, but if we audit it and we do ask for it, it's better for you to have that. That's it. An hour on the dot. Tom, I'm so sorry for going over. I know that we wanted to go through a lot. I think I went through everything pretty clearly. Anything I didn't cover? It's a good time for questions.
No, that's good. I think we want to move people to the next LightReach training, which is the 16th, Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific, it would be a great time to dig into to more questions that people may have. We took a bunch as we were going. So
yeah, cool.
Thank you, Jay.
Well, thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. Tom, great to work with you again. I just saw your recent story. Next time you fly, you're gonna have to invite me, brother, because I'm gonna want to sit right next to you.
Let's go. I was just looking at tickets to Europe, so let's go.
All right, I look forward to the invite.
Hey Jay,
but thank you guys so much.
Your phone number in the chat.
Yeah. So I'm gonna drop my email here. You know what? For this group, sure, I'll drop my phone number. My phone number is not in knowledge base. Not anything against you guys. There's maybe 3,000 people that have my phone number now. Yeah, please feel free to reach out to me. But Sunny is going to be like, I get a lot of one-off questions. If you ask Sunny first, I promise you they'll be able to get you that answer. If not, let me know. Hey, I went through knowledge base. I asked Sunny. I don't know the answer. Or if you have a specific need for a project, always happy to help. My number there, my email there. Just reach out.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys.